Good morning, everyone. This is Nicole Ali. This time it's Neely Fuller Jr. on interracial relationships. This clip is 16 minutes, 47 seconds long. I hope that you take something from his wisdom and his conclusions about the system of racism, white supremacy, and in this case, specifically on interracial relationships. He's speaking with GUS Renegade in this clip, and there are several other lengthy discussions that GUS Renegade has on this particular topic. I can look it up here. So here's some examples: white identification and tragic arrangements with black woman who has a white mother, black father. There were tragic arrangements that were between a white woman of America and I think the black man in the purple shirt, I think he was from Africa. Tragic arrangements of a South African white woman. Cheryl Giudice, who is an author, who authored the book called Black Women and White Men in Marriage. That was a very, very good episode to show how a black woman in a tragic arrangement takes on the personality traits of her Caucasoid husband or partner. And I found that very interesting. The interview wasn't as long as expected, but it really indicated to me that we are, as victims, we are susceptible to the snares and deception of people who do not understand us and will not understand us. This is a picture here this was with Pam. She has a lot of good information. This is a picture of I forget his name, Mayor de Blasio in New York City with his wife and his children. So they have a Merry Tragic Arrangements Christmas because of a lot of Christmas movies that have been put out, and a lot of the ads put out during Christmas time with black men and white and Caucasoid women. They have one about white friends, several actually about white friends and workplace racism, racial showcasing, tragic arrangements. So you can go through here and see this for yourself. There's another one that's very important. This one, I Wanted His Genetics. This white woman married a black man who was formerly addicted to crack cocaine, and she didn't care. She was a very rundown, meth out looking white woman, and she wanted his genetics because she wanted to get rid of her genetics. But in doing so, she became you could hear the racism coming out of her. I'll put it that way. Here's another picture of her with her daughter when she was much younger. You can see that she's very mannish looking, and once again she's saying, I wanted his genetics. So I'll leave it at that. I'll play this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. If you're new to my channel, once again, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate your words, your comments. So when you have a chance, please leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.
You have in here when you are talking about the 8th area of activity, one of the terms, the greatest insult, another one that I've heard consistently, tragic arrangements. We also got gutter sex. We have sexually trashed and or sexually sewered. These are in the Word God. The terms I just used, maximum racist aggression. That's in the code book. And then this is part of the explanation that you have in the Word God. He likes black females. She likes black males. He likes white women. She likes white men. And when you get down to the note section for this particular, or these phrases, you write that sexual intercourse and or sexual play between white persons and non-white persons during the existence of white supremacy is dominated and controlled by white supremacists, and as such helps to make non-white people into sexual and political simpletons and misfits, extremely weak-minded and silly persons in regards to their understanding of white supremacy and its effects. And I just wanted to get your thoughts about the terms that you selected. They seem to convey a great deal of intensity about the incorrectness of these acts. And I just wanted you to comment on that pattern, on some of the terms that you chose to use to describe the incorrect sexual activities that racists promote.
It's because the strongest motivating force among people, outside of just simple survival, the first one, greatest motivating force, is the system of white supremacy, period, among the non-white people of the universe. The second greatest motivating force among the non-white people of the known universe is sex. So, since the white supremacists dominate the sexual activity of the non-white people of this planet, it is the white supremacists who determine which non-white people will be allowed to engage in sexual intercourse or sexual play with white persons, because the white supremacists control all of the 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Because all non-white people are subject to the white supremacists in all of these areas of activity, including the second most powerful motivating force, which is sexual activity. So therefore, under the system of white supremacy, even when non-white people think that they have a choice of what they can do sexually with white people, they think that they are making this choice. They are not really making the choice ultimately. The ultimate choice, and even the situational choice that they are allowed to make, is determined by the white supremacists. Just like in any prison system. I go back to the prison system again. Because white supremacy is a prison system. The warden determines who's going to have sexual intercourse by setting up the situation where people can have it or not have it. If you're in solitary confinement, you're not going to have sexual intercourse with anyone. But if you're allowed to be in certain situations, work in certain situations, play in certain situations where you can have contact with another prisoner, then you can interact with that prisoner sexually if the warden of the prison has decided that this is a situation that's acceptable to him or her. And you think of the entire universe, the entire known universe, the entire planet that people are on this planet called Earth, the white supremacists dominate all of the affairs of the non-white people on this planet. So they dominate the affairs of the non-white people when it comes to sex, just like they do in all the other activities, the jobs, the politics, the religions, etc., etc., etc. So even when a black person, you might say, a non-white person, says that, well, I saw someone that I liked and I hooked up with them, to use a slang expression. And so this person liked me and I liked them and we got together and we have sex and nobody tells us what to do. The white supremacists have already predetermined that they will allow you to do this, sir and ma'am, if you're non-white. They have said that in this particular place at this particular time, yes, you can, in limited numbers, and they control the numbers, because that's a part of their sophisticated refinement of the system of white supremacy. In order to do what? In order to give the illusion white supremacy is going out of business. They determine what the numbers of non-white people are going to have sexual intercourse with white people on this planet. They determine the numbers and the limits of those numbers. Otherwise, there would be no such thing as white supremacy. If non-white people can just go around saying they're going to have sexual intercourse with whatever white person they want to have sexual intercourse with, anytime, any place, under whatever circumstances, it just looks like they are making that decision. That decision's already been made before they even came close in those circumstances to a white person where they could have that quote-unquote liberty. And that was preordained by the white supremacists, even though it may not seem to be that way. Because you have to remember, the white supremacists are experts at magic. They are experts at illusion. They're experts at making something appear to be something that is not. Anybody who's ever been to a movie that's been produced by white supremacists or people associated with white supremacists knows how powerful illusions can be. So that's just another illusion when a non-white person thinks that they made a decision and then acted on that decision that had to do with sex with white persons during the existence of the system of white supremacy. Now, what effect does sexual activity between white and non-white have on the minds of non-white people? Because that's what it's aimed at. It's to embellish that illusion, to make them think that they're exercising some kind of power that they're really not exercising. Actually, the power is being exercised over them, and they are being weakened, not given strength. Why? Because of the system of white supremacy still being in place. If there were no white supremacy, it would just be male meets female and having sexual intercourse and engaging in sexual play. Even Stephen. But under the system of white supremacy, which is a prison system, all of this activity is controlled by the warden. In order to do what? To make the prison system stronger by giving the non-white prisoners the illusion that they're really not in a prison because they're having such a lot of fun. Sex is a lot of fun to a lot of people. So they have the illusion that if at one time they did not have quote unquote sexual freedom with white people, then all of a sudden they have it. It's like in their minds being released from prison. But they're still in the prison. They're just being fooled by being allowed to do something that most likely previously they weren't allowed to do without being persecuted. That's why that particular act is the most devastating act on the minds of a non-white person. A non-white person who is having sexual intercourse with a white person in the system of white supremacy is becoming more and more weak-minded without them even knowing it. Now, they shouldn't be blamed for it. It's the white supremacists who should be blamed for that, because it's just another form of misuse. The warden having sexual intercourse with the prisoner. That's equivalent to child abuse in the system of white supremacy. If there were no white supremacy, no problem. But you're not supposed to take further advantage of someone who is already in a weak position. Anybody that runs a nursery knows that. And black people on this planet are in a nursery. They are weak. We're all weak. I'm weak. If you're classified as non-white and you're on this planet, you're in a weak position. So the person who has put you in that position comes and has sexual intercourse with you. You have become weaker, not stronger. Why? Because it's not on an even field. That's why. Prisoner and warden. Dictator and the one being dictated to. It's not a level field. It's not equal. Therefore, it's unjust activity against the non-white person.
Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., context of white supremacy. Before I check with Justice to see if she has some questions, I just wanted to make sure I got in for listeners. There's been a lot of this, which you term gutter sex, all the way back since the beginning of white supremacy, and that has not ended this system. And I suspect as long as it exists, racist man and racist woman will continue to sexually sewer their victims. But one point I wanted to get in, you said that under the refinement of white supremacy, racists will present, some so-called couples, black, white person or non-white person with a white person, and present it as though this is a quality relationship. These folks are married, family, all of that. And you said that there are not even that many of these so-called, put that in quotes, relationships. There are not even that many of these tragic arrangements. It's a part of that illusion. If you see one or two, in your mind, you'll think, oh, wow, this must be an area where they're really progressive. They don't have any racism. There are a ton of so-called, quote-unquote, interracial relationships, when that's not true at all. Just because you saw one or two, your mind will, inflate that to make you think that the whole town is filled with tragic arrangements, quote-unquote, interracial relationships. Could you share a thought on that?
Absolutely. This is why I look at the schools. See, if this was true, if white people and non-white people are all in bed with each other having a good old time, as you might say, then it would reflect itself in every school everywhere. But when you go to most big cities in this area of the world, you see all black people in the schools. Now, this is a result of some sexual intercourse. Black people having sexual intercourse with each other and then being shuffled off to a side of town. Black people are assigned places under the system of white supremacy. Just look at that alone. That's just one example. Just the schools alone. You go into school after school in any so-called big city, you see non-white people and a sprinkling of white people maybe in most of the most congested areas of any city or the city itself. Pockets of white people here and pockets of white people there, with a few black people and brown people, as they say, scattered in between. But you have large concentrations in an educational institution. Even in 2011, who are concentrated in what has been called, for the last 50 or 60 years, inferior schools. But these people that you see are the results of sexual intercourse. If there's any people there who are classified as non-white, who look like they're white, that's a result of sexual intercourse between a white person and a non-white person. But if that person looks like or has been registered as a non-white person, they're most likely going to wind up in a quote-unquote all non-white school. Which means that somebody's playing some kind of game and that the sexual thing has not counted. It hasn't solved the problem. Many people have said down through the years, if enough black people and enough white people have sexual intercourse and produce offspring, The race problem will be solved. As quiet as it's kept, there's a lot of black people who believe that. Well, millions and millions and millions of black people all over this planet have had lots of sexual intercourse, tons of it, with white people for centuries. Not just in the last 20 or 30 years, but for centuries, has not solved the race problem. That needs to be thought about.